tech has evolved. And I think one of the biggest things is there's so much more data now coming out on the females and how, there's differences obviously in our bodies and how we perform and how we move. So it's been really helpful to work with coaches like Mike who understand the female game just as much as the male game, and also positionally as a goalkeeper versus a field player.
In the world of technology, heroes are everywhere. They're overcoming disruption, delivering sustainable outcomes, and fearlessly forging the future to solve what's next. Join me, Ed McNamara, as we meet the people and businesses driving change in our constantly disruptive world. This is Innovation Heroes, a podcast brought to you by SHI. In today's world, data isn't just king. It's the game changer redefining how we work, play, and win. From boardrooms to locker rooms, technology and analytics have become the driving forces behind groundbreaking transformations. Businesses now thrive on predictive insights and precision strategies, while the sports world harnesses that same power to push human performance to new heights. Corporate leaders base most decisions on data and data analysis, while athletes are taking more than just talent, hard work, and grit out to the pitch. With AI analyzing every play and data shaping every decision, the way we compete in business and on the field has changed forever. Today, Casey Murphy, goalkeeper for the North Carolina Courage and the U.S. Women's National Team, and her training coach, Mike Olim, dive into the seismic impact data analytics have had on Casey's training and the way we all compete. Casey and Mike, welcome to Innovation Heroes.
Thank you for having us, Ed.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. Casey, at 28, you've already built a really impressive resume. While at Rutgers University, you were two-time Big Ten Conference Goalkeeper of the Year. Your 45 clean sheets make you Rutgers all-time shutout leader and second all-time in the Big Ten, which probably irks you a little bit knowing you. You've played professionally in France, Seattle, and now for the North Carolina Courage and the NWSL. And this past summer, you're one of the 18 Americans who brought home a gold medal from the 2024 Summer Olympics in France. First question, how do you even describe being part of the Olympics to the rest of us? What was it like to represent the U.S. on the world stage in France?
Yeah, the Olympics were something I always dreamed about as a kid. I feel like growing up, it was always my goal to get on the U.S. Women's National Team and to play on the international stage. And so this was my first Olympics and hopefully not my last, but definitely an amazing experience to be able to step on the podium with my teammates hand in hand, winning a gold medal. I had my whole family out there. So it was just overall an incredible experience that I'll have memories that I'll have forever.
No question. And I think some of what we're going to talk about today is going to be talking about how you get to stay on the podium, which is important. But just for take us back to the beginning. Casey, how did you first get into soccer?
Yeah, I started playing soccer when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. I was a kid that played all types of sports, and soccer was just one of them that I enjoyed and I stuck with, and eventually just went from the local town team to a travel team to PDA, which is one of the top academies in the country. And from there, the next step was collegiately, and then from there, the next step was professionally. So I was just climbing this ladder the whole time, and it's been a really fun journey so far.
So obviously, you were having success, pretty early. But is there a moment you can remember when you were young when you realized that, hey, like I might be a special player? Was there a big save, a big victory, or a big breakthrough of some kind that you had that realization?
I was like one of those kids that just was super competitive and always just like loved winning. And so I was always just like trying to be, a bit better than the rest of my teammates. And I think that kind of set me apart from a young age. It's just like I was the first one there. I like to stay after and do extra stuff. And I just always was competing against myself to be a better version, even at the youth level.
Mike, turning to you for a few seconds. For the past 15 years, you've been owner and director of operations at Advanced Physical and Technical Training in Metuchen, New Jersey, and you've built AP2T into one of the largest soccer-specific athletic performance and technical training, companies in the country. What about yourself? Like, how did you get into soccer, and when did you make that transition to becoming a trainer?
Yeah, so I always played at a young age. I would credit my uncle and aunt, Barry and Laura, who were in Europe for a lot of their younger years, who fell in love with AC Milan, Parma, and Manchester United. And so I remember watching at a young age, falling in love and playing. And what really got me into training was kind of a different path than most. So I started off as an exercise science major in college, and I actually switched after my freshman year because I didn't really understand how to make a career out of it besides physical therapy. And I actually, went to law school. And my semester before I went to law school, I started helping out in my old high school and just really fell in love with training again. And always had very impactful coaches. Mike Romeo, one of my coaches who used to work with Casey as well, he's over at Rutgers University in PDA too, was my club and my high school coach. And he had a big impact on me. So when I was in law school, I decided to try to start AP2T. I dropped out after 6 weeks. I had an idea to bring an athletic performance gym to a field. So for the first, 7 years or so, I was driving around in a truck and a trailer, bringing all this equipment to different fields. And then was fortunate enough to link up with Jeff Josell, who I ended up coaching with as his assistant. And we were able to open the Metuchen Sports Center. And that happened about 8, 9 years ago.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that. Mike, when you and Casey met at Rutgers, when Casey was in college, I'm going to say, I'm sure it was a little over 10 years ago or just about 10 years ago. What tech were you using during Casey's training back then? What tech was being employed at the college level as early as 10 years ago?
So I think the top universities were utilizing, force plates or using different kind of dynamometers and different kind of data analytics that were created, whether it be with like Power BI or through algorithms within, whatever the tech was. On our end, we just started to get into utilizing the force plate technology. So I can't remember exactly how many years ago we started with Sparta Science. They were unbelievable. Their algorithm is very nice. And then we switched over to Vault Technologies now, which we've used for the past X amount of years. So initially we were starting with just jump mats and, kind of handheld dynamometers and things like that. And it's since very much evolved and rapidly evolved in a short amount of time.
And using that data, what did the data say? Like, did it give you any insight into how to adjust Casey's training or playing style, et cetera?
Absolutely. So what we were able to realize is that she was a bit of a hip hinger, didn't properly transition from her eccentric phase into her concentric phase as efficiently as possible. And it's interesting, when you're a goalkeeper, it's a really unique position because you're vertical and horizontal based as far as power output goes. But there's also a component to not just agility, obviously, but also conditioning, because you're expected to do very powerful things in rapid succession. And it's kind of at random when it happens. You could be, having limited action for the first 75 minutes, and you could be peppered with shots and corners for the next 15 minutes, and then another 30 minutes of overtime. And then you're expected to go make some saves and penalties or kicks at the spot at the end. So we tried to utilize the data to not only, address any kind of imbalances that we saw, but we're also looking at how do we maximize performance and, talk about the endurance, talk about the anaerobic, the aerobic component while simultaneously hitting those imbalances and getting her faster, getting her stronger. And obviously with somebody of Casey's mental and physical, capacity, it's not very hard because she's a workhorse and always eager to learn and listen. And oftentimes, enough wasn't enough, and we do those extra few reps or extra few sets, and that's what separates the best in the world from the rest.
Casey, I think I heard Mike say that you might have been a sloucher growing up. Is that was that the case? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, I remember my mom would always make me stand against the wall, back straight and work on my posture. But a lot of my position is, on my toes, leaning forward. So it was a hard habit to break.
Well, as someone who was once 6'4", I know about slouching, so I know I can relate to it. And boy, those days are gone. Casey, the tech you had access to when you were in university is obviously different than today. How has the technology that you're deploying, whether it be in practice, in games, in preparation, or reviewing exercise, how has it evolved over the last 5 or 10 years, and what's really been effective for you?
Yeah, definitely tech has evolved. And I think one of the biggest things is there's been so much research done, especially on male athletes and male soccer players, but there's so much more data now coming out on the females and how, there's differences obviously in our bodies and how we perform and how we move and our bone structure and all of that. So it's been really helpful to work with coaches like Mike who understand the female game just as much as the male game, and also positionally as a goalkeeper versus a field player, what movement patterns are going to be most important for me to be more explosive or quick burst off my line. So it's been really helpful to use little bits of data here and there in addition to the training on the field as ways to just, widen that gap between me and the other keepers.
And Mike, how do you incorporate, those insights into Casey's training?
Yeah, so I just think, training is small increments over time to yield, great results. So it's about positive, not just physical behaviors, but emotional behaviors as well. And like we talked about before, we're willing to learn, willing to listen, willing to adjust. So there could be a time when perhaps she's a little bit more imbalanced, favoring her left side versus her right. We would know we need to work a little bit more on keeping that balance up. Maybe it came from fatigue. Maybe that year when she was playing, she ended up planting on that foot, X amount of times more than she did in the other one. So there was a bit of an imbalance that developed over time. So we kind of utilize the off season to correct those things. And that's why it's important to have the data and to check often to see what those adjustments need to be. Because it's not really a universal thing. It's very specific per the athlete. There are definitely universal norms as far as training goes for speed, power, and strength and things like that. But, the micro adjustments is what separates, the 99th percent from the 99.9. And those are the things that we try to do based on the individual data.
And what is it? Is it a wearable? Is it like, what's giving you that data? What's the data collection method?
So there's definitely wearables. What I primarily look at are, force plate jumps. I'll look at hamstring strength, hip abduction, adduction strength, and we'll look at like shoulder stability and shoulder strength as well to try to make sure that the body's in harmony, and also not just in harmony, but it's getting better, right? And you want to make sure that, if you're comparing it to a car, the engine, the tires, the gas, the oil, everything is firing on all cylinders to get the best machine possible. We don't want one to be compensating for the other because that's when injuries occur. And at the same time, not just looking at injuries, we're also looking at performance. So we want to make sure that while we're trying our best to keep her injury free, there's also a gain in performance as well, which is very important. It's not one or the other. It's kind of those two in working together.
Innovation Heroes is proudly produced by SHI, a leading global IT solutions provider dedicated to making life simpler for business and IT professionals. For over 30 years, we've bridged the gap between digital strategy and execution, delivering cutting-edge technology and services to thousands of customers worldwide. Whether you're navigating the cloud, strengthening cybersecurity, or transforming your workplace, SHI is here to help. To learn more, visit shi.com/solvewhat'snext. That's shi.com/solvewhat'snext to embrace the future with stress-free, scalable solutions that you and your people will love. We've talked a lot about data for training, but what about like for scouting opponents? I was thinking to myself, you see the Microsoft Surface devices are on the field for every, NFL game. But I was thinking for penalty kicks, are you using any data to analyze the history of, what an opponent, tends to do? Do you have access to that, either before or during a game or is that classic film study? What tech are you guys using, for that kind of preparation?
Yeah, we have staff behind the scenes that really helps scout the opponent for us and will give us information for me specifically on their strikers, which side, left or right, am I expected to see more crosses from, set piece wise, where they're looking to target, penalty kicks, where an opponent may more likely go. And so that's all information that we receive before the game. And it's on us to review that and make sure that we take that all into consideration. But also as a team, you want to, be you and play your game and not worry so much about the opponent. But that's definitely a resource that we have, especially going into the international level games where the margins are really little, and you want to have that edge as much as possible. It's information like that really is helpful.
And Mike, back to you. You mentioned Sparta Science. You said you've used the AI infused platform of Sparta Science in Casey's training. How exactly does that work? And what are some of the insights you learned about Casey from Sparta?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Sparta is that it provides, based on AI, a whole workout protocol. So a lot of the other technology, like I said, we use Vault now, where you have the raw data and the interpretation's kind of up to the practitioner. So Sparta's run a lot of different, I don't know if experiment's the right word, but they definitely run a lot of different trials to see how appropriately a workout program works, basically to help whatever the algorithm's saying that the athlete needs to work on, if that makes sense. So that was a really cool thing to be able to utilize what they saw based on the data and then kind of, modify it based on my own needs and where Casey's needs are. Because like we said, you don't want to just blindly look at what the algorithm says without interpretation. There's a quantitative component to it, but there's got to be a qualitative component too, where if, a deadlift, for instance, might be the recommended exercise, perhaps Casey doesn't like the deadlift. I'm not saying she doesn't. I'm just giving an example. Then you'd have to modify as a practitioner. But we're able to have that data to say, look, this is the type of exercise that's going to help compensate for the issues that we're seeing and is going to help performance.
Nobody likes deadlifts. I mean, come on. But Casey, you recently started using a Gen AI tool I think it's called Whoop. How does that work?
Yeah, so I used to have the Oura Ring, and that was really helpful for sleep tracking. And I moved on and also invested in a Whoop this Christmas. And what's great about that is I can wear it under my goalkeeper glove, and that's why I chose to go with that device. One, it still tracks my sleep. Two, it tracks my recovery, but it also tracks my strain. So it will pick up on my practice, how much my heart rate, what zone I'm in. It will track HRV and recovery, and so it's a really helpful resource for me to see where I'm at, how much I'm exerting, and how much more or less I need to be recovering.
Casey, was there any moment when you could tell the tech you used in training paid off during a match?
I'm really in tune with how I feel, and so it gives me an extra bit of confidence if I know the tech is telling me I've recovered well, I'm ready to perform, I'm ready to push myself. It will even encourage me to challenge myself if it sees I've been, at a place where I've recovered well and I can push myself. And so when I go into the game and I actually feel myself performing, my legs feel good, my body feels good. That just gives me an extra bit of confidence to take more risk.
Casey, sports are a business like any other. How do you think data analytics has made you and the teams you played for more competitive over the years?
Yeah, I definitely think one of the things that sticks out in my head is the fitness component of it. And a lot of the teams that I've been on pride themselves on being the fittest team. And so, especially in preseason, with the heart rate monitors and our coaches have on the iPads, our heart rate and how hard we're working. And so say we're working for a period of 3 minutes, the coaches are able to see if you're dogging it or if you're actually working as hard as, you should be. And it's just a tool that we can use to make sure that everyone is pushing themselves, especially before the season starts. That's an opportunity to get your fitness levels up. And that's one area we've used tech in the past to set ourselves apart from other opponents and making sure that we're fit and ready to go for when the season starts.
Mike, I think getting better at something, whether it's soccer or building a company, requires slow incremental improvement. How does the right tech help do that?
Yeah, I would say that having access to the technology enables you to take the guesswork out of what you're doing. So if our goal, for instance, is to get somebody to balance out the way they're taking off and additionally increase their peak power and increase their 10-meter acceleration and their vertical, let's say, we have a few different metrics there. And we know we don't have to hit that in 2 weeks. But we also know that if the goal is to get better in those in 6 months to a year, and we test often, we could see if the plan we have is working. Because otherwise, you're kind of just guessing that it does. Historically, if we were able to train these athletes and we would test them periodically, let's say every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, if you're enacting a plan over that time and it's not really responding with them, then you've kind of wasted that time, right? Nothing's really a waste because you're doing something, but You're not really optimizing what you want to do. So the technology and the data sets allow you to optimize exactly what you're doing to make sure that your protocol is working with the athlete. And I think that's the most valuable thing possible, because it helps the athlete with feedback too, for them to understand that what they're doing is working. And on the flip side of that, maybe 4 or 5 weeks go by, or 3 weeks, whatever it might be, and we're like, hey, this isn't working. Let's modify it now. The athlete doesn't feel like they wasted too much time either. And I think that's important when you have an athlete looking for a goal, but at the same time, they're trying to trust you with that goal as well. And that makes it easier on the trainer and the coach, and it makes it easier in the relationship with the athlete.
Casey, what's next for you in your soccer career? What's next for you professionally?
Yeah, so I'm entering, I think it's my 8th professional year, and which is just crazy to me. And I have my eyes set on the next World Cup and Olympics. Last time around, I was the backup goalkeeper. This time around, I want to be the starter. So everything I do from now until 2027 is in preparation for all those big tournaments. And one thing that I think I will try and utilize as much as I can is the tech, and that's especially important for me in the off season. I'm coming off season now, and that's a time where I go to AP2T and I train with Mike, and we're able to break down how I ended the season, where my numbers are at, and my goals for the off season, and making it a really productive 2 months. So going into the upcoming year, I'm, just continuing to raise the bar. And some players like to take it totally easy in the off season, but Mike knows, him and I love to get up early, 7 a.m. sessions, and get work in. And just going into a really big new cycle. We have a new staff with the U.S. Women's National Team, and new team, a lot of new players. So just really wanting to do what I can on and off the field to make sure that I'm helping the team succeed. And that's kind of on my radar. And
I know that you lead soccer camps for future stars. CMGKsoccer.com to find out more information for those. I know you've had camps in Austin and New Jersey. So if you want to check out when the CMGK camps come to your town, go to CMGKsoccer.com. Casey and Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Talent, skill, and hard work are needed to excel in any field. But to compete at the world-class level in sport or business, you have to find another gear and utilize whatever is necessary to separate yourself from the competition. Data, analytics, and AI tools give those precision insights that take athletes and business leaders to the next level. Thank you, Casey Murphy and Mike Olim, for giving us an insightful look into how data and innovation are reshaping training, competition, and performance. The future of athletics, like business, is being driven by those who embrace change and technology. Until next time, keep innovating and stay ahead of the curve. For Innovation Heroes and SHI, I'm Ed McNamara, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks.